Hundreds of thousands of Haitians living and working in the United States are wondering when they'll be the next targets by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Special protections allowing Haitians to stay are set to expire in the coming days. They were axed by the Trump administration, and his decision was upheld by the Supreme Court last month. The CBC's Mike Crawley has more details from Washington. So, Mike, walk us through what the Trump administration is doing and why.
Yeah, Andrew, the Trump administration has set this target of deporting 1 million people per year. And although the White House insists it's really focused on deporting criminals, there simply aren't that many people who are illegally in the country who've committed crimes. So the administration is doing now terminating what's called temporary protected status. This is a designation that's let Haitians live and work in the U.S. since 2010. And what it means is around 300,000 Haitians, they're losing their permission to stay here in the U.S. Their work permits are set to expire tomorrow. The deportations could start as early as Monday, because that's when the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that you mentioned takes effect. So this is all happening even though the safety situation in Haiti has not really improved for years. You've got criminal gangs that control 90% of the capital and a lot of the surrounding countryside. They target ordinary Haitians for kidnapping and murder. And the U.S. State Department says Haiti's not safe for Americans to even visit.
And you went to Springfield, Ohio, a town with a strong Haitian community made famous by Trump. What are you hearing from Haitians there about how they're preparing?
Yeah, so there's a lot of fear about what comes next, and they're really trying to figure out what to do. What you mentioned about Trump making Springfield's Haitians famous, yeah, they got thrust into the national spotlight a couple of years ago when Trump claimed during a presidential debate that they were eating dogs and cats. Now, there was no evidence this was true, but it did some pretty serious damage to the community's reputation. And the key thing here, Andrew, is it's got them feeling particularly vulnerable to these potential immigration raids. They're feeling like there'd be a real target on their back when the deportations start. Now, Haitians make up about a quarter of the population of Springfield, and pretty much all of those folks hold temporary protected status. And one of them who I spoke with is a guy named Villes d'Orsenville. He runs a support center for Haitians, and he says some of them are considering trying to escape to Canada, but he also told me he's warning them against that for the risk that they could be turned back at the border and into the hands of U.S. immigration officials. And yet at the same time, they've got this fear of what would happen if they don't try to flee the U.S. and they get deported to Haiti instead. Take a listen.
You know, so many of them left Haiti because they were in danger, because of political reason, because of all type of maybe threats.
Now, Villes d'Orsenville also told me that some Haitians in Springfield have already lost their jobs. Employers laid them off in anticipation of that of their work permits expiring tomorrow.
And how are other non-Haitians reacting ahead of the expiry of the temporary protections?
Yeah, so I spoke to some faith leaders as the religious community in Springfield, as a lot of the folks who are supporting the Haitians there. Carl Ruby, he's the senior pastor of Springfield Central Christian Church. He said that, look, Trump deserves some credit for being more serious than previous presidents about deporting people who are violent criminals. But he says the vast majority of Americans don't want to see immigration enforcement that goes beyond that, right? They don't want people who've become their friends and their neighbors and their fellow churchgoers to get arrested and deported. Take a listen.
Not only are we concerned about what could happen to our Haitian friends, it's also a huge loss for Springfield. And I'm grieving, I'm grieving what this means to Haitians who become my dear friends and who are members of my church, but I'm also grieving for our city.
Now, Pastor Ruby also told me that he and other faith leaders in Springfield have been actually training for what they would do if the ICE raids begin. He said people are committed to peacefully resisting, placing themselves actually in the way of the ICE agents if they believe that they're trying to detain somebody who would be in serious danger if they're deported to Haiti.
Mike, thank you. That is the CBC's Mike Crowley live in Washington.